He said something I never forgot, changed the way I worked from that day to this. He said it this way: Danny, you never work hard to pay bills. You work hard to have fun with the money. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough to do either one of them, pay bills or have fun. I said, I've been working hard to pay bills. He said, how much fun's it been? I said, not a whole lot. He said, I suggest you change your focus. I did, and I haven't had to worry about paying 1 cent. Let's go to the next one. The great ones have inspired enthusiasm that is contagious. Oh, I love to be around those kind of people. Felt a lot of that right here in this room. Those people are like a pilot light on a burner. When they light, whoosh, everything around them is on fire. I had a saleswoman that worked for me. Goodness, she had such enthusiasm. We were a big fancy company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. She was number one out of my 145 salespeople. She was number one out of our 1,200 salespeople. She was number one in the industry nationwide. Her background, former tomato picker there in Orange County, California. 8th grade education, spoke with an accent. Number one. I asked her one day, I said, Chris, how do you do it? And she just twinkles when she talks. She says, God didn't make me with an off switch. Now, how's that for a concept? Didn't even come with one of them things. But how do you get that enthusiasm? By witnessing the accomplishment of your daily goals, not just your tasks. And this will probably be the heaviest point I make to you here in our short time together. If you don't have that inspired enthusiasm that's contagious, whatever you do have is also contagious. Just think about that for a second. Maybe somebody's saying, gee, I hope the people around me don't get what I've got. They have. If you've talked to them at all. Hope the people that work for me don't get what I've got. They have. Hope my kids don't get what I've got. They have. But what are we talking about? Growing up new roads. Let's go to the next one. The great ones are level-headed. The great ones are level-headed. Oh, are they level-headed? Has great speed in grasping the facts. They can organize turbulent situations. Level-headed. Calm, cool, collected, level-headed. Oh, I love those people. They don't get the come-aparts when they're faced with problems, chaos. They don't do that. Oh, no way. These people, calm, cool, collected, level-headed. I'd like to tell you about how level-headed I was, sitting up there sometimes at an altitude way up 65,000 feet. I could look up through the canopy and see the stars in the sky. What was so special about that? Well, it was during the day. You can do it from there. Roll the airplane upside down, as I've done hundreds of times. So far away from the earth, I could see the curvature. As I hurtle back into the Earth's atmosphere at 1,200 miles an hour, 20 miles a minute, mile every 3 seconds, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, mile away. Or another way of looking at it, 7 football fields in 1 second. Been there. Been there a time or two also on fire. Not good. Not good. I have a severe allergy to flaming gasoline. You probably wondered what did pilots say when they looked down and saw smoke and flames in their cockpit. Trade talk, they'll let you in on it. I used to say, bummer! This is going to be a yucko day, I can just tell. Or words to that effect. I'd say, you better let somebody down on the ground know you got a major problem cooking up there. I'd reach over to touch that microphone button that sent my voice from that great height out over a major part of the United States. I said, Cox, before you push that button, you just remember one thing. You got the right stuff, man. Calm, cool, collected, level-headed. Push that button and talk. I'd hit that button and say, Control Center, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I'm now at 60,000, descending upside down on fire. Never had to walk home, able to get that thing back on the ground. Every single time, I got the same number of landings as I do takeoffs. Then they would call me into the Squadron Control Center where they had this big tape recorder that automatically recorded everything that came in on the emergency frequencies. It's a dumb idea, I might add. I said, let's listen to this one, Cox. And they'd hit the play button, and it generally came out this way. Mayday, mayday, mayday! I'm 60,000 feet. I don't want to be up here! I said, now who's messed around with that tape again? Now, that time I know I was more level-headed than that. Sometimes they'd even have the prayer recorded. It was embarrassing. It was called the test pilot's prayer. By necessity, a short prayer you had to learn how to say very quickly. I'll teach it to you. It doesn't take long. Went like this. Okay, God, get this thing back on the ground. I'll taxi it in for you. That's it. Used that a time or two in the civilian world. Like my boss said, I'm looking for your replacement. I said, okay, get this thing back on the ground. I'll taxi it in for you. You see, I'm not a perfect 10 on that characteristic either. The next one, the great ones have the ability to select and develop good people and is not afraid to hire someone better than himself or herself. I have people come up to me and say, Danny, how do you get rid of the mavericks in your organization? I say, mavericks? Yeah, you know those people that are hard to handle. I said, well, first of all, you don't get rid of them. Oh, you don't? What do? Well, actually, you go get more of them. Oh, you're kidding. Well, if I did that, I'd have to learn how to harness all that horsepower. I have people say, boy, you give me a workforce that does exactly what they're told to do, I'd be happy. I say, may God in heaven above help you if you ever do get that workforce that does exactly what they're told to do, because you're soon going to find out they do only what they're told to do. And that's not what you want. To wind this thing up here today, I want to tell you a true story before I give you the 4 all-important words. And I kind of illustrates what leadership when the heat's on. How the most unlikely leader could take the most unlikely team and do the most unbelievable thing. To do that, I want to tell you about my friend Hal Needham, the stuntman. When I first met him, I was flying fighters out of Tucson, Arizona for 3.5 years there, and they used to come in there to shoot movies. And the fighter pilots and the stuntmen used to get together at night for little coffees and teas that we would plan. Most of which I'm sure are still legend in Tucson, Arizona. We'd wind up late at night sitting around telling stories, talking about life and all kinds of crazy things. Thank God Hal Needham never shared his dream with me. What if he would have said to me, Danny, someday I want to be Hollywood's top stunt man? I'd said, forget it, Hal, you're not going to make it. You've already had 43 major bone breaks. And that doesn't include your broken fingers and toes. That runs the number way up. 43 major bone breaks, you're not going to live that long. What if he would have said to me, Danny, someday I want to write a script for a movie, big box office hit. I can just see it now. I said, wait a minute. I think you forgot your upbringing. You're an ex-tree trimmer. Remember, you got a 9th grade education. I don't think Hollywood's looking for any script that somebody's written with a Crayola held tightly in their fist. You know, I don't think that's going to happen and be a big box office hit. You mean up there with Gone with the Wind, Star Wars, Sound of Music? Forget it. You're never, ever going to have that happen in your life. What if he would have said, Danny, I've got a friend. He's a butcher, meat cutter. Never been a trained engineer, but he's got a hobby of engineering. And we want to build a rocket-powered car that will go supersonic. I said, you're talking to one of the world's foremost authorities on high-speed machinery close to the ground. There's no way you're ever going to get a car supersonic. Rubber would come off of the tires hundreds of miles an hour before you even get close to the sound barrier. He'd have probably said something smart like, well, we're not going to have rubber, just all metal wheels. I said, right, at that speed? You've been falling off too many horses. You better go out there and get in my car. I'll run you back to your hotel. I'd have told him that real quick. Well, a few years after this, he called me. He said, it's been a while. I said, it's been way too long. Let's get together. My wife and I met him at a restaurant, he and his girlfriend down at Malibu. We were sitting there having dinner, catching up on each other's lives. He told me about how he'd become Hollywood's top stunt man. Told me about how he had written Smokey and the Bandit. And at the time, it was tied for 4th all-time box office hit with a movie called Sound of Music. You never thought you'd hear those two titles in the same sentence. And he said, I got something I want you to be a part of next week, Danny. I said, what's that? He said, I got a friend who's a butcher. Got a hobby of engineering. We built the doggonest car you've ever seen in your life. Rocket-powered. We're going to make an assault on the sound barrier. I said, you're putting me on. He said, you should see the car. It's 40 feet long, twice as long as a normal car. But it's only 18 inches wide. And it runs on 3 all-metal wheels. I said, of course, rubber would come off at those incredible speeds. Hey, give me credit for picking up a little faith what human beings can do through the years. I said, we'll be there. Where? He said, Edwards Air Force Base there at the Dry Lake bed where you've seen the shuttle come in. Great stories have been told there. We stood out there on that Dry Lake bed, my wife and I. She was over here. A guy by the name of Chuck Yeager was right over here on the right, guy that broke the sound barrier in the air for the first time. We were watching Cleveland Mine's close friend, Stan Barrett. He was the driver of the car. And they told him that day that the speed of sound was 730 miles per hour. It varies by temperature. Now, put that in perspective. That's 500 miles per hour faster than the cars come down the straightaway at Indianapolis. 500 miles an hour faster. And when they told him that, he said something that I think maybe we can all maybe learn something. He said, out there is my enemy. Out there is my nemesis. Out there is the barrier. And boy, you got to look at it that way. He wasn't kidding himself. He walked over, got into the car. It took him 20 minutes to get into the car, and he wanted to get into the car. It would have taken him longer to have got me in there, not just because I'm whiter than Stan Barrett. I would not want to be encapsulated in that car. Encapsulated? Yeah, once you're in, they close the canopy. Then they bolt it down with about 100 bolts. When do you get out? When they come unbolt you. I don't want to be encapsulated in anything. They told Stan it'd take 3 runs to break the sound barrier. 1 run per weekend. 3rd weekend, he should punch through the barrier. He said, I'll risk my life 3 times for that. We were about ready to watch run number 16, and he hadn't made it yet. And they started the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! With a rocket engine, you get total thrust instantaneously. I mean, it doesn't build up. You get it all at once. As he described a previous run, it's a whole lot of going in a hurry. That little red rocket car shot down that long dry lake bed over the curvature, couldn't see the car anymore. We could hear it, and we could see a rooster tail of sand and dust being kicked 50 feet, 5 stories high into the air. And after the run was over, he didn't make it. They checked the speed, but he did drive 637 miles an hour, faster than any other human being had traveled across the face of the earth. We got out, he said something very interesting. Again, I think something that we can maybe apply here too. He said, you know, every time I take that car up to a new higher speed, I say to myself, I can't do my job any better than what I just did. But he said, I crawl back into that car the next week and I find out that's not the case. I can drive faster. And they started the countdown the next weekend. One more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! 17 seconds later. 739.66 miles per hour. Broke the sound barrier by over 9 miles an hour. When Stan gave me this picture, he said, you'll notice that my rear wheels had lifted a foot up off the ground. I said, did you know you were just up on your nose wheel while you're running supersonic? He said, it's hard to know anything when you got your eyes closed and your fingers in the air. Chuck Yeager walked over to that car after the run was over, pointed up at that great big high tail with the American flag painted. He says, where else but in a country like this could you have something like this happen? A tree trimmer with a 9th grade education financed that car. It cost him $2 million out of his own pocket to build that car. They told him it'd take 3 runs, and it was going to cost him $75,000 to $85,000 each of the runs. He said, I'll finance 3 of them. He wound up financing 17 of them. That's commitment, too. And then Chuck Yeager went on to say, you know, and then have that car designed and built in the backyard of a butcher who only had a hobby of engineering. And then to have it driven to that incredible speed by a man who'd been lifted right up out of his grade school desk by his cheek, with a school teacher saying, Stan Barrett, you're never going to amount to a thing. Probably in the record books forever. Well, hopefully I've got you looking down your own long, dry lake bed at your own 730-mile-an-hour barrier, whatever it is. You know what it is. I don't, but you know. Before we start the countdown, I want to fill up that rocket-powered tank there with these 4 all-important words. Here they are. The first word, dream. Dream that great dream of yours. You know the one that keeps coming back to you. What would happen if you did develop the rest of your potential? Dream that dream so vividly. What was it George Foreman says? You won't even notice any what? Pain in getting it. Second word, study. Study everything you can get your hands on to make the dream come true. Books, tapes, taking people to lunch or better at your job than you are. Make it a lifetime principle to never delay the remedy of anything that's holding you back. Anything that adds to your effectiveness is cheap, no matter what the cost. Dream and study. Third word, plan. Plan your time. Time your plan. Figure out what problems you're going to run into. You'll run into new ones as you develop more of your potential. You can figure them out ahead of time. Well, wait a minute. If you can figure out problems ahead of time, what else can you figure out even before you need them? Solutions, absolutely. It's like we said back home. It's okay to have a tiger by the tail if you know what to do next. That's a very important step. Or as Evel Knievel, the great 20th century philosopher, once said. Remember Evel, they asked him once on a talk show, what's the worst feeling in the world? He said, that's easy. Come roaring down that track on that motorcycle, hit that ramp, up off the end of the ramp, into the